Okay. Is everybody ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
And we are going live in 5, 4, 3.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the afternoon, actually, and welcome to the Comics Experience Graphic Novel of the Month Club for the month of March. Oh boy, what a strange March it is. We're all trapped inside, and things that were supposed to be people in the studio, or here we're doing it via remote. Our book this month is the fantastic, funny, wonderful, such a good book, Bug Boys by Laura Knetzger. It is Knetzger, right? That's I got the pronunciation there?
It's Knetzger.
Knetzger, okay, Knetzger. Very, very good. This is why we ask these questions. And as we just see, Laura is here with us, talking to us about this and everything. How is it going for you, Laura?
It's good. I'm coming to you from glamorous my living room in Seattle.
Looks glamorous to me. I love it.
It's a beautiful day outside.
And you're trapped inside. Talking
And
about
totally
comic
trapped
books.
in.
Yeah. Well, at least, I mean, hopefully, you know, being a cartoonist, you're used to shelter in place as a lifestyle, right?
Yeah, I'm used to working from home.
Yeah.
It's just spooky that everyone else suddenly has to do it, and they're
Right.
like, "This is hard."
Yeah. No, it's a strange time, but if we all get through this together, we'll all get through it together. That's what I say.
Yeah.
So the first question is always the same question. It's a good question. Why comics? Of all of the things you could possibly be doing in the whole wide world, what is it about comics that says to you, that's what I want to do?
Great question. I don't know. I learned to read using comics, and I just never stopped reading them or wanting to read them more and more. And then I wanted to make them, and then it was so much fun, I kept doing it.
Yeah. What's the first comic you can remember reading?
I remember reading comics in the newspaper, like Calvin and Hobbes,
Yeah.
and then my dad had a bunch of like Harvey comics, like Casper the Friendly Ghost. And so I remember reading those a lot when I was really little.
All right. What was your favorite character of the Harvey group?
Oh, Hot Stuff, the Little Devil.
Hot Stuff, for sure. Yeah.
He was my favorite.
Yeah. I always liked Little Dot because she was just psychotic about dots, which just seemed like such
she
a
was great.
weird, random thing to be like, I love dots. Like, dots of all things.
Yeah, that's a hilarious idea for a character.
Yeah. I very much like Hot Stuff too. And I love those Harvey comics. Were you, so you've read comics from a very young age then.
Yeah.
When did you start buying your own comics? Do you remember?
I think when I was in middle school, I got an allowance, and that was when the Tokyo Pop manga boom started.
Yeah.
So I could save up my allowance and then get a couple volumes of Paradise Kiss or whatever at Barnes and Noble.
Yeah. Yeah, that manga thing is definitely a big influence for a lot of people your age. I see that a lot. Did you go to school to study comics?
I did. I went to the School of Visual Arts, and I studied comics and illustration.
Yeah, specifically comics or just illustration in general?
Specifically comics.
Yeah. Who was teaching?
Let's see, I had Keith Mayerson. He's a artist and cartoonist. My best teacher, my favorite teacher was David Mazzucchelli. I had him for senior studio.
Wow.
That was great.
Wow. Yeah, he's a master.
That was intimidating.
Yeah, I bet. And that's actually a really interesting question. When you have someone who's that talented, like can you talk about it, that intimidation or what that's like? Because I would be terrified to go to a comics making class with someone who's that good. you know?
Well, it was like he was also very interested in being a good teacher. Like, he was interested in comics and everything they can do and every way you can perceive and show data visually.
Yeah.
So he brought in lots of examples of that. But then he was also really interested in just talking to each student and trying to get them to understand what is it they were going for in their homework and did they achieve it.
Yeah.
So he was really interested in meeting everybody where they were.
Neat.
So the intimidation factor, you kind of forgot about it after a while. But then every now and then he would just like hit you with a crazy whammy of, have you thought about this?
Yeah.
And then it would come back.
Yeah. So you obviously knew who he was when you
Oh,
were.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Did everybody in the class, or was it just some
Oh,
people?
yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
We were all like peeing our pants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. That's neat. That's super cool.
Yeah.
So you never had any hesitation, obviously, then for a career in comics.
I really didn't.
Yeah.
Which, you know, now that I'm like almost 30, I'm like, that's a crazy thing that I just decided to do when I was 11. But I really wasn't going to do anything else.
Yeah.
At least until, someone really told me no.
Yeah. So what did you, when you went to those classes at SVA, what did you think that your career was going to be? Did you think you were going to draw for Marvel or DC or Harvey or Archie or something? No.
No, I was more interested in I got the idea for Bug Boys while I was still a student.
Okay.
So once I had that, I was a lot more interested in making all ages stuff that I could serialize or self-publish on my own and then hopefully get picked up with a publisher like it did.
Yeah.
But really I was interested in just making any comic idea that came into my head.
Yeah.
When I was a student. I didn't ever think I would really have a career in Cape Comics, so I wasn't orienting the classes I took around that. I was just obsessed with comics.
Sure. Well, that's why I was thinking about things like Harvey and Archie and those kinds of things. I mean, Harvey was out of business at that point, but Archie's certainly still in business. But those are interesting places because to draw those kinds of comics, you have to draw on model. It's all about drawing on model and drawing it exactly the way, which is a very, very, very different thing than what most of us think of as comics most of the time. The idea for Bug Boys, you said you had when you were still a student. Did you envision it to be a book like this?
No. When I started making Bug Boys, I was just self-publishing it as a zine, made it on a copier at Staples.
Yeah.
And then I just was having so much fun making it that I kept doing it. And as the stories got longer, I would have to, self-publish through a print-on-demand site or one of these issues I had to distribute digitally because it was too long to be collected into a zine. It was out of the scope of what I knew how to make.
Yeah.
I never really envisioned it as a collection when I was making it. I was just interested in, well, what will the next one be?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a good, healthy way to work on comics especially when you're not sure where you're going. Yeah. So you were doing it as a zine. Were you selling it at local stores in Seattle, or was it just at shows and through the mail?
Mostly shows.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few in some comic stores in Seattle, but I would mostly go to shows like Small Press Expo, and then we have a show here called Short Run that I really like.
Yeah.
That happens in the fall.
So those 2 or 3 shows a year was enough to sell enough books to make it worth printing them to do that whole thing? I'm just sort of wondering about the economics of it.
No, I always had day jobs at the time.
Now, the way you phrase that makes me think that you don't have a day job now any longer.
Oh, right. Yeah. I left my last day job about a year ago because I had just all the work of making this book lined up, and then I had some other children's books that are still in production. So I had too much work to be still going to my day job, and I realized they were never going to promote me, so I just left.
Right. Well, and you're getting promoted in comics because you have book deals now.
Yeah, and it was comics time.
Yeah. And is it working out economically, like that you can keep the apartment and not work the day job?
So far, it's all right so far.
Cool.
We'll see.
Yeah. No. Obviously, I mean, knock wood.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Very much so. Okay. So you were doing Bug Boy as mini comics. I'm assuming 8, maybe no more than 16 pages at a throw.
The shortest one was 12 pages, and then the longest Bug Boy stories have been about 50 or 60 pages.
Okay.
And one of them I succeeded in printing. Another one I just distributed digitally because I thought it was too annoying because it was just too long.
Yeah.
And the print-on-demand service I use, when the book gets too big, it's got like a weird like squishy bit to it. It's just like not a very pleasant book to hold.
Yeah. Hand is very important in comics.
It had weird book feel.
Yeah. When you distributed it digitally, were you still selling it, or were you just giving it away for free?
Yeah, I was selling it on Gumroad, which is like a file distribution thing you can set your own price for.
Yeah. That worked out?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that one worked out great because there was no printing cost.
Right. Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the one part of the business that I know very, very little about is the digital stuff because I'm all physical. Well, you can see behind me. It's a giant store full of books. That's how we think about it over here. So you were serializing stuff. How much of what was serialized ended up in the book, and how much of the book is new?
Everything in this book was serialized.
Okay.
And then the second Bug Boys book is coming out next year in February, and everything in that book was also serialized.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. I mean, this is already 250 pages. I'm assuming the other book is roughly the same. You had over 500 pages of it. Wow. That seems pretty impressive.
Thanks. If you just break it down into like a 32 to 40 page scene, and you're making one of those at a time, you don't really think about it. But then in a couple years, you're like, oh, dang.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fantastic. That's 10 or 12 issues worth, let's say, depending on, the actual page count. That's fantastic. I'm assuming, perhaps erroneously, that the stuff that you were self-publishing was not in color, or was it in color?
It was not in color.
Yeah. Okay. So the coloring is new for this edition, then.
Oh yeah, the coloring is brand spanking new for this book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very pleased we were able to hire a colorist, Lyle Lenz, to help me with this. I think she did a fantastic job. Some of the art in this book is 9 years old now. So when I see my 9-year-old art, I don't think it looks great, but Lyle's colors make it look awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased.
Yeah. That's cool. Are they in the order that you did them in the book, or?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So the oldest stuff is the stuff at the beginning. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I wasn't. You gotta always ask these questions. Don't assume stuff. How did the coloring process go with someone else? Are they sort of coloring a page or two and then sending it to you and you're approving it, or were you just like go ahead and do it, and whatever works?
I made a kind of like a style guide for her to follow, and I sent her that. And then one of the major points in the style guide was also "I trust you." And then when it came time to proof the book, I also proofed the colors at that time for accuracy or mistakes or anything like that. But I think she did a great job.
Yeah, no, very
Even
good.
just like at the first shot, I was like, awesome.
Yeah, no, and very consistent all the way through too. Did you have to re-letter the book to make it for the final version?
Yes, the self-published ones I all hand-lettered. For this book, the Random House folks helped me make a font of my hand lettering, and then we used that font to re-letter the book.
Oh, neat.
For consistency.
What about like I'm looking at page 14 and 15. It's a frog egg, and it has it's not just your font obviously there. It's a little.
Yeah.
So did you go in and hand letter that kind of thing, or the owl on the next page?
Yeah, those are preserved from the self-published ones.
Okay.
That's hand lettering from way back.
Did you not? So you used the same balloons then?
Yeah, same balloons.
Okay. Neat. That's interesting. Was that problematic at any point, or did you hit something where you're like, oh, I really want to change the words here, and now there's not room? Like, was there any redrawing in what you did here?
There was some slight redrawing. As for the lettering, I think there were a few parts where we felt like the way I phrased stuff was confusing. So we did some slight rewordings. But it was pretty minimal in terms of editing.
Nice.
It was mostly just like making sure everything was the right size to go to print, working with the colorist, doing all the relettering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. So where did the actual idea for the book come from? I mean, I know it's written at the back, but let's talk about it out loud.
Sure. So when I was a student, I watched this movie. I think it was just on PBS. It was a documentary about beetle collecting in Japan and kind of like what bugs are in Japanese culture, and they're not really considered like a pest. They're just like another animal. And so there's lots of footage of bugs in it, including rhinoceros beetles and stag beetles. And I was just doodling in my sketchbook as I was watching TV. So I was like, it would be a fun challenge if I tried to make these beetles, which are kind of gnarly looking, if I tried to make like a cute version of one. I drew a couple versions in my sketchbook, and I was like, oh, I like these. I should write some stories about them. And then that was fun, so I just made another one, and yeah.
Yeah. Where'd the ideas for the stories themselves come from? I mean, not
Sure.
the characters, right? But Go ahead, sorry.
The stories themselves, at first I was trying to think of like all ages comics that I loved as a kid and what would be my version of that. And I was also trying to think of really putting myself in the shoes of an animal that's much smaller than me and lives a life very different from me. So how would they look at the world? Even though I'm kind of, anthropomorphizing them and making them live in cute little houses and stuff like that, I was still trying to think of like having the perspective of the world as a bug. And how could I make that cute and funny, and what kind of adventures would they have? How would they talk to each other? Stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it's great stuff. It's
thank you.
I love it. I mean, one of the reasons I really love a book like this is that even though I'm an adult, I still just appreciate the fun and the friendship and the humor and the attitude of a book like this, and this kind of thing makes me happy. I don't know.
Thank you.
I like feeling happy from reading comics. That's good. I'm gonna turn to I have a couple of questions from the kids here. Some of it we may have covered a little bit, so I'm just gonna start at the bottom and move on up. Josie, who's here in San Francisco. Hi, Josie.
Hi, Josie.
Yay. Is asking, when will volume 2 come out? Well, we already said that. Is there going to be, I'm going to expand on that. Is there going to be a volume 3?
We're talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have more stories in your head that you could do?
I have many more stories written.
Yeah.
They're not drawn yet, but they're written.
Okay. Actually, this is a really good time to maybe talk about process for a second.
Sure.
What is your process? You write stories out? You just said.
Yeah. So I usually write. I'll get an idea for a story, and then I'll usually just write like a few sentences that explains what happens. I don't write a full script.
Right.
Page breakdowns, and then I get these like cheap little notebooks from the grocery store. They're just like, and then I draw in them.
Oh, cool.
Just like extremely roughly, like stick figures, and I write all the dialogue at this time. And then I try to figure out where each panel goes, and I'll try to think about the spread. That's the reason I'm using a sketchbook, is so it can show me both pages at once, so I can think about how much information goes here and here, and does this look right together? Does this look good? Do I want to do a 2-page spread? And then after that, I would pencil and ink it, either on paper or I've started working digitally lately, and then if I was making a zine on my own, I would get all the files looking good to print and then order a printing with a print-on-demand website. Or if I'm working with an editor, such as the Random House people, I send them all the pages.
Yeah.
And then
neat.
A book happens.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Do you so your thumbnails are like bigger than full size in a way, right? Because we've interviewed some cartoonists who
they're
do
basically at full size.
Yeah.
I mostly do that.
Well, that's a little bigger than the book, though, right? That's an 8.5 by 11 notebook, yeah. And the book's what?
Yeah, it's basically full size.
That's neat.
But the thumbnail is just a sketch. It's just to see what goes where.
Sure. No, I understand. I just, it's interesting because, usually when people do thumbnails, the reason they're called thumbnails most of the time
it's smaller.
is because they're really tiny. But I guess if you're drawing little tiny bugs, then drawing them as big as possible kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I think I mostly do it this way because I need to figure out where the words are going.
Yeah.
So I need the words to be basically the size they're going to be in the final thing.
Sure. Yeah. Again, it's the thing that's always fascinated me about this. You're probably the 125th cartoonist that we've, something along those lines that we've interviewed here, and no one has ever given me the same answer in those 125 people of how they work or what their process is. Or I just think that's one of the coolest things about comics is that any way you do it is the right way to do it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So you said you're working digitally now on a tablet?
I have a Cintiq tablet that I draw on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that...
It's okay.
Yeah. Because there's a big difference between, I think at least, I'm not much of an artist myself, but between drawing on pencil and paper and having, the feedback of the pencil moving?
Yeah. I think a lot of feedback between the thing you're drawing on is like a huge difference between digital and paper, and that kind of is like the divide between people who do it one way or the other, is whether or not they can get used to the feedback being so different.
Right.
Yeah.
What
And
made
the other
you?
thing is there's like a certain scale people learn to draw at that becomes very comfortable for them.
Sure.
And you're either comfortable doing that on paper, or with digital, you can adjust the scale of your drawing in a way that you really can't do with paper. So that helps some people, and that really turns some people off.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
it's
What-
okay.
what was the impetus for you to change?
It's just much more convenient.
Okay.
It's easier to make changes later in the process. And when the comic is done, I don't have to store a big stack of Bristol boards somewhere for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I get that. I like original artwork too. All right, let me keep going with some questions here. So we're going to keep going with Josie. This is Josie's second question. You've sort of answered it, but maybe there's another something in here. Why did you want to do Bug Boys?
Well, I just had ideas for stories, and they sounded like fun to make, so I just kept making them.
Yeah. Did one story lead to the
know.
next?
Oh yeah. It's like when I have them do one thing, I'll think like, oh, and then it would be interesting if this other thing happened. Or what if we saw this story from another character's perspective? What would they think? Maybe I should have an issue about them, or introduce someone who sees things a different way. Yeah, it definitely snowballs.
Neat. That's very cool. All right, so this is from Enzo. Hello, Enzo. And if you guys are sitting at home watching, you have questions, send them in, email them into me, and I will get them asked. Well, as long as we have time, which we're good on. So Enzo says, in some panels, Stag Beetle has a nose, and in others, he doesn't. Why is this? How did you decide how he would look in different frames?
Good question. So Stag Beetle has a nose. If you'll notice, he only has a nose for the first few issues. And then I took the nose away. And the reason for this is my first sketches of Stag B, he had a nose. And as I kept drawing the comic with him in it, I felt like the nose was kind of getting in the way, or it was looking too much like a second mouth. And I felt like if I reduced the number of features on his face, it might look a little cuter. And there are other changes in different characters that you can see from issue to issue. I'm changing how they look, because I'm always trying to refine them to look a little different, or look a little better, a little more round, a little more alive. Or I put too many details on them at first, and then it looks a little crowded when I have to draw them in a crowd or something like that.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
I'm open to making little changes with characters.
Yeah.
From issue to issue.
I think my
That's
follow-up...
a very astute observation.
It is. It's a really good observation. I think my follow-up to that would be, since you had the opportunity theoretically to redraw anything in the book, why didn't you go and just eliminate the nose all through it?
I don't know. It's just the flavor of the early Bug Boys.
Yeah, no, that's keeping original flavor is good.
Yeah. It's lore.
Yeah. There you go, lore. I like that. All right, let's see. Hi, my name is Theo. I'm 8 years old, and I'm a member of the Kids Book Club. I really enjoyed Bug Boys. I liked that there were a lot of stories in it. That made it much more interesting. My favorite was the quest for the honeycomb. Here's my questions. Why did you make a book out of shorter stories? Well, I think we answered that. And I don't know if I can add anything to that, really. And then the second question he asks is, how did you think of the characters Rhino B and Stag B, which, again, I think you answered. How How about other characters because you said that you drew Rhino and Stag right from that first time you had the idea. How about other characters?
And then other characters I kind of needed to invent so that Bug Village would be full.
Yeah.
And then, I would make up a character, like a friend of mine who read the first 2 issues said, oh, in the next one they should meet a spider. So then I was like, that's a great idea. I'm stealing it.
Yeah.
So then I invented Dome Spider, and I would say basically each character I invent, I kind of just mean to use for the issue they're in. And then if I get an idea later that I want them to come back, I'll make them come back, and then they'll be a little more developed next time, or we'll learn something new about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good questions, Theo.
Do you have a favorite character? Whether it's to write or whether it's to just the fun of drawing it.
Drawing Rhino Bee is the most fun. Just doing his one big horn in the front is like, that's really fun. But Stag Bee is also really fun to draw. Dome Spider is the hardest to draw because it's hard to find poses for all her limbs that look good in the space of the panel, that look attractive. Sometimes I'm just like, she's got too many arms. I have to draw one going up and out, so they're not all packed too low in the panel.
Let's see. We've got a question from Bam. Hi, Bam. Bam wants to know, where do you get the ideas for all of the plots for all of the stories?
Sometimes I'm thinking of characters that I want to hang out with more. Sometimes I'm thinking of different parts of the natural world that I think would be cool to explore from a bug's point of view. Like, in Bug Boys Land, what would a beehive look like? What would all the bees look like to them? Or I'm trying to think of a new place I can take them. Like a different village full of bugs. Or in the second book, they go to a place called Centipede City. That's a huge city.
That sounds
cool.
Then
I'll try to think of charming anecdotes or perhaps conflicts between characters that can happen in each new place, or within an existing character and a new one. Sometimes I just think of conversations I'd like them to have, and then I have to think of a pretense for the conversation to happen.
Do you
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense to me, at least. Do you ever I don't know, go to the zoo and look at the bug exhibits, or watch bug documentaries on television to get more ideas, or is it all in your head at this point?
No, I definitely get ideas from going to museums. There's a really good natural history museum in Seattle called the Burke Museum. I like going there. And then, I just like thinking about different ecosystems. What would it be like if they went there? What could happen there? What's the reason they would go there? Stuff like that.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. In terms of working, how long does it take you to do a story? And let's say one of the shorter ones. Let's say one of the 16-page stories. Estimate.
Really?
Not,
An estimate. This is not normal, but I drew the first Bug Boys issue in a week.
Wow.
Because I was really excited.
Yeah.
I was a student. I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
I just had the time to do it.
Yeah.
A longer one, I feel like the longest one in this book, which is I think about 66 pages, that one took me about a month.
Okay. Still, that's like 2 pages a
Yeah.
day, even
Yeah.
on the slower. That's really good.
The true secret to this, that rate of production, let's say, is that I drew them on paper. I drew them at size.
Mm-hmm.
They're all like, oh, I don't remember what it was, but it's like 5.5 by 8.5 inches, like little.
Yeah.
For reference, a lot of comics made it 10 by 15 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So, me.
Yeah. I mean, the standard, if you're doing Marvel and DC superheroes, is twice as big as what the actual book is printed at.
I was not doing that.
Yeah. Is most of the work for you in the layout, in the thumbnails, or when you're actually doing the final pages?
I'd say most of the like mental concentration is in the layout, because that's when I'm trying to get it to flow nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I'm happy with that, I can just like go into drawing mode, drawing production mode. It's like, okay, I know what the characters look like. I know what's in each word balloon. I know where each word balloon goes. I can just do it. I'm not debating with myself where it all goes.
Yeah, yeah. Are you doing a pencil step, an ink step, or are you doing just final artwork when you're?
Pencil, then inks.
Okay. So it is a multi-step process, and
yes.
The lettering comes between those two steps. Yes, for you or not?
Lettering I do as part of penciling.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you lettering in ink?
No, I pencil it first.
Okay. So you're actually lettering the book twice then. Is that accurate?
Yeah, now that I have this font.
Right. Yeah, it's different with the font. Sure. Yeah.
I would still do lettering as part of the pencils stage because I really need to know where each word balloon is and how much space it needs to know how much space I have to draw the characters in. Yeah.
When you're drawing
words first.
Yeah. When you're drawing digitally, is there a distinct penciling and inking step at that point?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Usually using 2 different layers in whatever drawing software I'm using.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sketch layer and then a ink.
Cool. All right, so we know that there's the second volume's coming out, and it's even here at the back of the book, though you can say it if you can get it faster than I can find it. Spring 2021, so a year from now, basically?
Yeah. About a year from now.
About a year from now. What else? What else do you have going on, comic-wise? Stuff you can talk about, at least.
Stuff I can talk about. I'm making some what's called early readers.
Okay.
Comics with a different publisher called Holiday House.
Okay.
Those are for like age 4 to 6, so like just learning to read.
Okay.
I think those will also be out next year. They're still in progress.
Is it harder to work on a book like that where you have to maybe think more about what words you can use?
Yeah, I found these pretty difficult to write.
Yeah.
Because I would send sketches to my editor and she would be like, "Great, this needs to be much less complex and use much fewer words."
Right.
And I would be like, "Oh no, but if I can't use a big word, how will everyone know I'm smart?"
That's funny. Okay, so you've got some early readers coming up. Anything else?
I'm working on Future Bug Boys.
Okay. Is your intention to self-publish them first and then hopefully get collected in a book, or are you intending the next set to be in a 250-page book?
I am writing it as in chapters, as if I were making issues to self-publish, but I am talking with Random House about continuing it being published in this format as a series.
Very good.
Yeah, as a graphic novel,
Yeah,
not as a zine.
Yeah. Do you find that there's a difference in the way you write a comic story between it being 18 pages and as many pages as you want? Like, does that change the way you approach the story, or the way you plot it?
Yes, if there's a specific page limit I have to work from, I will. Wait, sorry. Let me show you. If I will mark out how many pages in the sketchbook, and I will start drawing it from the front, from the beginning forward, and then from the back backwards at the same time.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that's super cool.
Or I'll try to at least nail the final scene as I need it in the back, and then work from the front to get to there.
Huh. And
because otherwise I won't count, and I'll just keep going.
Right, you just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has that caused any problems where you meet in the middle and you're like, oh my gosh, I still have 4 pages that I've got to put in here?
Yeah, then I'll probably go back and stretch some scenes out.
Right.
Or just invent some dialogue for some characters to have.
Yeah. Have you had to cut out stuff because you wrote too much?
Yeah, I've had to just omit things that I just didn't have the space for. So I'll just choose something that is not super vital to the core of the plot and just leave it out.
Sure. What do you think is the hardest part about being a cartoonist?
It's probably having to do with because right now I'm working on all the pitches for Bug Boys 3, and based on the time frame the publisher has given me, that will be what I'm working on for the rest of this year. But I don't know what I'll be working on the year after that.
Right.
Until I get a little closer to it. So the uncertainty is a little, can be unnerving if you have a personality that's not cool with ambiguity in that way.
Sure.
Also, it's really hard to make money in the smaller press area. Both, distribution is really hard.
Yeah.
Can you hear that my cat is breaking into?
I can hear something's going on, but I didn't know what it was. It's the cat, though,
I'll deal with that later.
Yeah. And the cat is the cat is here. We have. Where's the page with the cat is Chili. The cat is Chili, right?
That's Chili, yeah.
Yay!
That's what she likes to do.
Hi, Chili, wherever you might be. You're not in the frame, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately.
It's all good. All right, we have a question from Holly Lemon. Holly Lemon wants to ask you, and hi, Holly, thanks for watching. What made you put termites in the book?
I read an issue with bees in it, and then I had the idea of what if there was another type of bug that lived in a hive in the same issue. So I looked up different bugs that have hive communities, and bees, wasps, and termites. So I chose bees and termites to be in the story. And they're cool.
Yeah, they're cool. Awesome. Hopefully that answered you, Holly. All right, I'm out of questions immediately here. So, and we're really close on time too, because we started a little bit late, but we're pretty much at the hour where we're supposed to be. What's your favorite part about being a cartoonist?
It's great to just draw, just have an idea for a drawing and then just enjoy the pleasure of doing it. It's fun to, I don't know, I think even if I wasn't a cartoonist, I would still be one of those adults who watches kids' cartoons.
Yeah.
So it's great to be able to watch cartoons and be like, this is research for my important work. Yeah, it's fun to write a story. It's fun to draw it.
Do you ever get,
To,
I don't know, this probably isn't the right word, but do you ever get scared by the blank page? Like intimidated by the blank page?
yes, I like stickers, and I will sometimes put a sticker on a page in my sketchbook or something like that, and then it's no longer a blank page and I can draw on it.
That makes sense. That's a neat way to get around that. Huh, interesting. And then Jordan, the tech guy, is asking, do you incorporate that sticker into the story?
No.
No.
It's just the getting over it sticker.
Yeah. So for any of the kids who are watching at home who think maybe I can grow up to be a cartoonist, if you had to give them one piece of advice, what do you think that might be?
Write the words on the page first, and then draw the pictures in the space that you have left over. That will help you have the words be legible. It will help you, I don't know, it will help you compose the page, you know?
Okay. Was that something you came to yourself, or was that something that you got from SVA or some other?
That was advice that was given to me that I quickly learned was very important.
Yeah, neat. And I guess let's go the opposite direction. If there's one thing you shouldn't do as a cartoonist, what might it be? You don't have to have an answer to that, really. I don't know.
I don't know. There aren't a lot of don'ts because it's art and you can do whatever you want. I would say don't think of it as like, this is my really important hard work I have to do, that if I do it wrong, it's a mistake. Don't think of it as like a bunch of mistakes you're about to make. Think of it as something fun that you're going to do.
Yeah.
Think of learning as pleasurable. And that way you'll think of like, oh, there's so much I don't know. Well, I'll have the pleasure of learning how to do it. Not, oh no, I don't know it. I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's generally good advice for the world. Well, awesome. I'm really glad that we had the chance to talk today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We love this book, and and the kids who have, obviously we've been closed for the last week because of this situation. But the kids who have come in have said how much they liked it and how much fun it was, and how I have had multiple kids go, I can't wait to read the next one. So that's always the reaction you want. Yeah. And it's fun and it's funny and and the relationship between Stag and Rhino is great, and they remind me of maybe not friends that I have, but friends I want to have, which is what you really want in a story, I think. So I loved it, and it's great, and we want to see you just keep doing comics. I'd love it if we could get a book out of you every single year for the rest of your life.
Me too.
Yeah, exactly, and make a career out of the whole thing too. That's fantastic. Just for a little, not housekeeping, but next month's book is also a fellow Seattleite for you. It's The Sunken Tower by Tate Howard. This is a really great book too. You guys are going to like this. A lot of action adventure in this one. So that'll be next month's book, the April book. And Tate is here well, roughly a month from today. I don't have the date memorized because I'm terrible. I'm terrible at these things. But I want to thank you for this book, Laura. I want to thank all the kids who are watching. I want to thank the people at Random House for seeing this book and realizing they should publish it, because it's a great book and it really deserves to be in everybody's hands. If you're sitting at home, particularly now, because there's now you can't leave your house, and you want something really, really, really good to read, Bug Boys is a fantastic book. We have a web store we can sell it to you, but that's really not the point that I was trying to make there. But read this book; it's a fantastic, fun book. And I really want to thank you, Laura, for taking the time to talk to us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Very good. Stick around for a minute after we end the broadcast. We got one more thing for you, but other than that, I'm going to say goodbye to all you kids at home and all the families and everything. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in a month with the next book. Have a great time and really stay healthy, wash your hands, and take care of yourselves all. What? Oh, and the Beat, right? Yeah, no, and thank the Beat for being a great sponsor for this, and read more comics. Yay! See you guys next month. All right, the broadcast is done.
Okay.
Yay!
Okay,
So
I have to go check on my cat. She's doing something.
do it, but then come back because we want to do one more thing with you.